Mike, today we're talking about episode 37, Disrupting Death, Stories of Medical Assistance in Dying with Kathy Cortes-Miller and Keri-Lyn Durant. It was released in
Mhm,
April 2025. I mean, on the podcast, we talk all about their three-part series on their podcast. I learned
mhm.
so much. What resonated for you in that conversation?
Yeah, for me, they talked a lot about what's happened after the stories have been created and how people are using them and sharing them themselves. And I have to say, out of all the digital story projects I've done recently, this one is probably these stories have traveled sort of the most. And so I was hearing them talk about, the ways that they share them at conferences and to students and how the students were like, why did you even tell us all these statistics? We should just watch the stories this whole class,
Yep.
and had conversations about the stories. So it's sort of cool to hear all that. And it's because I've had those experiences myself. I've taken those made digital stories to many conferences. And it's really just because I'm going to a conference already. I'm like, hey, why not submit an abstract about, the lived experience of family caregivers for people who choose MAID. And 100% of the time that abstract is accepted and it's standing room only, and the most recent one I was at the Canadian Association of Psychosocial Oncology, and yeah, it was standing room only in the room, and I facilitated conversation with the people in the room, and I couldn't even walk to get lunch after that session through the lobby. It was just nonstop people coming up and saying, "Wow, those stories, tell us more about." And then we had all these conversations about digital storytelling, and it actually has led to a bunch of projects now at the Princess Margaret Cancer Center, at the sick kids hospital, and it was those stories really have traveled. To me, it sort of emphasized the idea about how digital stories can help us have difficult conversations. Because mate is not an easy conversation to have in Canada, right? And I would say anywhere in the world, right? And yet, the amount of conversations I had in that one trying to cross the lobby to get lunch, you could just see how much people had learned from these stories and how much of a different perspective they had than the sensationalized media reports that we hear all the time. And so, that's really what stands out to me and what, uh, Keri-Lyn and Kathy have been doing with the stories is starting conversation, meaningful conversation about difficult topics. And those made stories, they've made it all over the world. I won't go into details, but they've made it to the British Parliament, which is amazing in the middle of the big debate about whether they should legalize MAID or not in Britain. They were watching these stories, right? So yeah, that's what stood out to me.
Oh, I think that's incredible. And um, one of the things I think about is that you ran that workshop, 2 workshops, and there was multiple common language facilitators. So I'm actually
Mhm,
hoping to bring on Crystal or Maureen and talk about their experience as well, looking back and hearing those podcasts because, one of the things I
mhm,
found really interesting was Kathy and Keri-Lyn have all this research work, have done the digital storytelling workshops, but then they also have this podcast that focuses on all these different aspects of MAID. So I
mhm.
ended up way down a rabbit hole of like learning all about what that looks like
Yeah.
because you're right. You were talking about an oncology conference, but I find so often it's like siloed into specific areas in medicine where
Mm,
we're gonna have this project here because this is the right conference for it. Whereas bringing
mhm,
MAID to an oncology conference led to new conversations, and I think there's a lot of room for growth there. But
mhm.
Mike,
Yeah.
thank you for all of these conversations that you always have
Mhm.
with me about the podcast
Yeah.
episodes. Friends, if you're listening, that was about disrupting death, stories of MAID with Kathy Cortez Miller and Keri-Lyn Durant. You can find all the links to the podcast, to the stories, to the work they're doing in the show notes.